What's up everybody, Daniel Apke here and welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new here, this channel is all about online businesses, real estate investing, and entrepreneurship. In this video, I'm going to walk you through my process of selling an online business, specifically my dropshipping business, and I'm going to take you step by step of what I went through to sell the business for $770,000. By the end of this video, you should understand the process of selling an online business, along with some of the benefits and key takeaways of building an actual asset that you can sell. So not only a cash flowing business, but a business that you can cash flow and then get an exit point in an exit sale. New plant, new week. This week's video, we got a bromeliaceae. Don't ask me if I said that right. One very valuable piece of information I want to share with you before we jump right into it. Subscribe, like, and alert. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video below and turn on your alerts. All right guys, let's get right into it. In my mind, there's two types of businesses. There's businesses that you can build and sell as an asset. So businesses that are scalable, that are sellable, and you can list on a marketplace and eventually sell the business. And then there's businesses that are just for cash flow. An example of this would be my land flipping business, or say I owned a couch flipping business where I went to the market every week to buy a couch, brought it back, stored it in my garage, and then listed on Facebook Marketplace, sold the couch. But that's not really a business that you can sell. That's a business that generates cash flow, but there's no processes, and that business cannot sustain without you involved. So now we covered that, let's go into my dropshipping business and the process of how I sold that. So I started this store back in mid-2019. Took me about 30 to 60 days to build and actually launch advertisements on the store and start making sales. After about 6 months or so, I was profiting about $20,000 to $40,000 a month, and anywhere between $350,000 to $400,000 a year. And by this time, I had a full set of employees and a full set of staff that I had trained. I had all my processes in place. So I didn't really have to be involved in this day-to-day operation. I just had to manage the employees and focus on the growth of the store. I had a full set of videos of how-tos, how to order a product from a supplier, handle angry customers. I had videos and documents on everything, just building out my processes. And I even had a virtual assistant manager who managed all the other employees and the other virtual assistants. All these employees were overseas in the Philippines at the time. So I hired a virtual assistant manager to manage the other virtual assistants and run the day-to-day store. So that helped take a lot out of my management side so I could focus on advertisements and suppliers. So I got to the point where I didn't need this income anymore. I had sustainable income through my other online businesses, and it became more of a headache. I lost my passion for the store, and I started looking and exploring the idea of selling the store. So there are actually what I call third-party brokers who will sell the store for you. You have to sign a non-compete with these brokers and list it on their site, and in return, you're not allowed listing it anywhere else. So this was a very big decision for me. So I was calling a bunch of different brokers who actually have sites. Their business is selling online businesses. So that can range from Kindle Publishing to Amazon FBA to blogging sites to dropshipping stores. Anything online business, they list and have a pool of buyers that could potentially buy the store. So they do all the marketing for you to sell the business. And in return, they get anywhere from 10 to 15% of the final sale price. So I started calling different friends who have sold businesses in the past and getting opinions from them on who to use. There's a lot of different businesses and brokers out there who sell these sites. So I wanted to make sure that I was going with the best one who could sell my business the fastest for the most amount of money. I probably interviewed 6 to 10 different businesses. Although I was super excited to list it and sell the business, this was such a big decision for me that I really wanted to make sure I got it right. So after about 3 to 4 weeks of interviewing and weighing my pros and cons of each different broker, I came to the decision to list it with a company called Empire Flippers. I went with Empire Flippers because they seemed like they had such good processes in place, and they also had hundreds of listings at the time of similar businesses, along with 100 employees on staff at Empire Flippers around the world. So they obviously had a big buyer network. They were obviously selling a lot of businesses, and their commission was a little bit higher, but I thought it was worth it to sell my business quicker and take a couple % hit on the commission side. After this, they took me through what they call a vetting period, and that's where they kind of analyze my profit and loss statement and any information I gave them, and they audit that, make sure all the information is accurate. They'll send it to their vetting team, and they'll look over the profit and loss, ask me questions, fix any adjustments that are needed, and really go from there. So that took about a week or so. After that vetting process was done, we went straight into the listing process, which I'll get into. After a week of vetting, the listing went live. So during the vetting process, we also came up with a price that we were gonna list the business as, and this was with what Empire Flippers thought was kind of the market value at the time, and they have a bunch of data to back these numbers up. So we ended up listing it for about 3.5 times the annual profit of the store, which came out to about 42 times the monthly profits. And doing more research, that's pretty standard for a lot of businesses. It really depends, like Amazon FBA businesses are listed higher than that. Dropshipping's kind of the lower multiplier right now. They look at it as not as sustainable since you don't have your own inventory. Amazon Kindle is about, I've seen anywhere from 40 to 56x. It really depends the business model. Each business model gets different multipliers depending on what investors think of the sustainability and long-term nature of the business. After the listing went live, I had several different interviews with people all around the world. What would happen is these potential buyers would see my store being listed, they would listen to the interview on it, and they would dive into the financials sometimes in the profit and loss statement. And by then they have access to the profit and loss statement, and they also have access to my Google Analytics, so they can really dive in to get a good sense of what's going on with the business from this information. And since they have access to all this, they come up with a bunch of questions for me, and if they're interested to move to next steps, they'll actually interview me. So we'll sit down with myself, the buyer, and an Empire Flippers employee. They'll go over any questions they had on the business, and this could be anything from just gauging what kind of person I am, to questions about suppliers or something they saw in Google Analytics they wanted to go over. And this wasn't any Joe Schmo out there that was just going to interview me, not serious about it. Empire Flipper verifies all these buyers. So what they do is they'll verify that the buyer has enough funds to buy the business before they actually interview me. So they're not wasting anyone's time. They have very serious people ready to pull the trigger. And I had interviews with people in California, New York. I had interviews with people in South Korea, Japan, all overseas, which was cool because there's such a big network of people all around the world that are looking to buy online businesses to diversify their portfolios and get involved with what everyone wants to get involved with right now, e-commerce. So I listed this site mid-May of this year, 2021, and the site had multiple offers by the end of July. So the way people structured their offers were different. Some would put less money up front and then say $100,000 for 5 years each year. And others would give you 100% of the money just at a 20% deduction or 15% deduction of the listing price. So the incentive there is you can get all the cash up front, take a little discount, or you can get more cash over time. So it's really whatever you preferred. And Empire Flippers asked me this before my listing went live, so they know what to tell buyers. So an example is I got an offer for $450,000 cash up front and then $300,000 over the next, I think it was 3 years or so. And then I had another offer with $770,000 all up front, which was a significant discount from the listing price. But I needed to take money up front because I have different businesses and I have different assets that I could invest in right now that I could use the money. So I took a little bit of a discount to get all the money up front, which was a win-win situation for both of us. If I didn't have other businesses and anywhere else to put the money, I probably would have gone with the more money over longer terms. That way you have an income next year and the following year as well. So once we came to an agreement after negotiation, we then entered the inspection period. This is 14 days to really analyze any discrepancies in the business. It's their last chance to really back out if something is off. And a lot of this was spent looking at the profit and loss statement. They would ask questions on the cost of goods sold or questions on my marketing spending or why it went up in February versus January. And it was a lot of back and forth between us until he felt comfortable with the business. So at this time, I had to give him a lot of different documents for whatever he was asking for. Some of those examples were supplier agreements. I just really would answer any questions he had during this 14-day inspection period. So after inspection period was done, what we did, we signed final documents and then we entered migration period. And migration period is where I take all of the assets, anything under the business, Instagram, Facebook accounts, Google Ads accounts, anything involved with the business, I would transfer over to his name so he has control of those assets. This took another 2 weeks or so for the migration period. So after migration was complete, we then entered the most fun of it, and that is payout phase. So that's when the buyer actually takes the money, gives the money to Empire Flippers, Empire Flippers takes their chunk, and then gives me the rest. Overall, the process was very quick and smooth. It's incredible that there's such a large buying pool around the world of people buying online businesses, including dropshipping, Kindle Publishing, Amazon businesses. So when starting and choosing a business, you want to consider a business that you're going to be able to sell because these exits are really nice. The $770,000 exit was really key because it took me 18 months to build and I put all these processes in place. I would have just had to shut down the store if I didn't sell it. So here are my 2 personal tips of scaling and selling a business. From day one, you need to build out processes to make this whole business semi-passive for you. Buyers want to see that they don't need to spend 40 to 50 hours a week on it. They want to see that they can spend 5 to 10 hours managing it through the long-term processes that you made. The less work needed, the more desirable for these investors. Passive income is always better than non-passive income. Tip number 2 is spend time hiring and training employees. So when the time's right, hire an employee and spend a lot of time training them, spend a lot of time with those employees, because what happens when you sell a business is you sell the business with the employees or the virtual assistants. Having a one-man show is never ideal for an investor because they know they're gonna come in and have to do a ton of work up front, catch up with all the business stuff, learn how to take over the business, along with run the day-to-day business. Great employees are great assets because they will increase the value of your business. To help boost the YouTube algorithm, if you guys could please like the video below, and subscribe to my channel. That's all, guys. See you guys next week.